Hello there and welcome to the NCBA Money Mastery Season 4, powered by Centonomy. Here we teach you how to make your money work for you. My name is Daniel Macau and I am passionate about numbers because here at NCBA, the numbers that matter to you matter to us. So here are some 3 facts that matter when it comes to men and money. Men make up 75% of all new business owners and directors globally. Men generally take more risks than women in investments, but globally, women investors outperform men. So the battle of the sexes is not ending anytime soon, and especially when it comes to men and women's views on money and investments. The difference between men and women's approach to money is very curious, with many citing upbringing, societal demands, and simply the fact that men and women view risk very differently. So let's talk about men and money. My guest today is Waithaka Gatumia, the CEO at Centonomy Limited. Welcome and karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Daniel. You seem to only invite me for hard topics like this, men and money, because they're very touchy. And if we're going to get through this effectively, I want to ask everybody who's listening to us that we're speaking our perspective, our ideas around it. Take it with a grain of salt and also apply your knowledge to it. That's the idea behind this. At Centonomy, we've been training for over 14 years, and we've heard perspective from men, from women, from couples, from families, and so we're trying to bring in what are the key areas that men need to be aware of. That's the idea for this session. So this is not speaking in detail about everything for everyone, but for men to be aware. That's hopefully what we can do today.
Okay, very well. You've mentioned 14 years of training at Centonomy, so there's a wealth of knowledge and lots of data that you have
for sure
to share with us today. So tell me, Waithaka, why is it so important that we speak to men about money? What is it about how we view money that makes it so important for us to talk about it? Because
men have a different perspective on money than women do. And again, I'm going to highlight, I'm saying this in general. From the research that's out there, you can be able to find lots and lots of studies that have been written on how men approach life differently from women. And we're talking about money in this specific, and in this area. Yeah. So I mean this generally, the trends that we have seen. Yeah. I have to say this at this point, that there's a huge overlap between men and women as far as our investment strategy is concerned, as far as the way we approach money, as how we deal with one another. There's a huge overlap. But there's specific areas that are of concern to men, that's what we want to address. However, everything that we're discussing today is useful for whoever is listening to us. So ladies, don't log off. You might learn something as well, hopefully, as we go through it. Okay, very good. So maybe let's dive right into it. What are these areas that men tend to struggle with when it comes to money? So there are many, but because we have a limited time today, allow me to address 2 of the main ones. And the 2 that I want to probably unpack today is, number 1, physiology, our actual physical makeup and what that does as far as our thinking around money and planning, as well as a more broader discussion around society and the societal expectations that are placed on men. I think if we address those 2, they'll kind of cover a lot of the issues that we face, but we are complex issues, complex creatures, human beings, men specifically, and so we can't address everything, but we'll try and address those 2. Okay, very well. So shall we address each of them? I guess we can go dive deeper into any of them, and maybe you can offer some strategies. And so how do men adapt, and how do they move forward? Sure. Yeah. So let's address the physiological issue. It is the big T word, testosterone. Before we came on, you were telling me you have 3 sons, and I have a completely different experience from you. I have 3 daughters. So I cannot imagine what you go through in life, because when their cousins come over, you know how boys are, full of energy, and movement, And there's a clear difference. Now, I'm not saying that there are no girls who don't move around and there are no boys who are more like settled and stuff like that. But in general, if you take a bunch of boys, a bunch of girls, you'll find the boys are jumping off walls and they're trying different things. It's this thing called testosterone that's moving us forward, that's causing us to explore, to try new things, to get out into the world. So let's think about it this way. As investors now, we're obviously adults. How does testosterone now affect the way that we're going to do it? It comes out in a couple of ways. Number one, it comes out in this whole, the exploration, the physical exploration, going to new territories and all those kind of things. But it also comes out in our business strategies, in our investment strategies. We are more likely to explore new investments. So, hey, cryptocurrency has come up. Hey, NFTs are there. You'll find a lot more men are interested in that. What's the new thing that's coming up? Because of our tendency to explore, to move, to go into new spaces. So that awareness will keep us on our toes to know that, there's a physiological part that's driving you in that direction, but it needs to be under control. That's what we're trying to say. We're not saying don't put it aside completely, but have it under control. As kids, I know, I'm sure your boys, they must, I understand because I grew up in a household where it was just me and my brother. So you know the kind of competition that comes up there. You'll struggle with one another, wrestling, and then it comes to school. Now, even in school now, it's who gets the better grades, who gets the positions that are there. Sports, think about it in the same way. That sense of competition when you're young plays out again in the world, like with us now. So in the work environment, in the office, in the boardroom, our drive towards competition has an element of that chemical that's flowing through your body called testosterone. It's driving you to compete. And it's not even so much about just the achievement, but I'm achieving more than Daniel. I'm pushing beyond what you have done. Your team has done that, let's get beyond that. And so we need to be aware of it and be clear that sometimes it needs to be tempered with thought and process behind it. So we're not saying it's a bad thing to have that competitive drive or to have that idea around exploration, innovation, trying new things. Those are all positive outcomes that you're looking for if they are tempered. And that's what we want to discuss today. So we're not saying men don't be men. Be men, but live with some controls around that.
Okay. So I hear you talk about, our exploratory nature and our risk-taking nature. And so I'm sure the gentlemen tuning in are asking themselves, so are we saying that we should stop taking risks and being so risky and so on? Should we compete less? What are we saying? No. I'm not trying to say that. And please don't take this and say that, men and they are such risk takers, they should not go in that direction, or please don't be so competitive. No, that has been a huge part of the drive of human society for a long period of time. So it's about understanding each one of those points can be a strength or it can be a weakness. And what you want to do is lean more into the strength rather than the weakness. So say, taking risk, let's talk about risk, that exploration, innovation, all those kind of things. If it's taken to the negative perspective, it ends up in things like gambling, because now it's just pure risk. All you're doing is betting on what's coming out of it. That's not positive. But the idea that, guess what, imagine there might be a better product that I can produce, there can be a better service that I can be able to do. I might be able to introduce a business idea into this environment that will make a change. That's a risk that we need to be taking. That's a risk that actually drives society forward. And more than not, men tend to be the ones that drive that agenda. I am not saying women don't do that, but if you were to look, bunch of women, bunch of men, more of them will take that risk. So I want us to come out of this saying that men, society cannot grow, individuals cannot grow without taking risk. So you have to embrace it, but don't just take a general risk in your life. Take risk that is calculated. And in fact, that's a big part of what we try and train at Centonomy. And I know even as NCBA and as a bank, you offer training around this. Don't just put your money and there's no understanding. It is when you take a calculated risk,
that you find the success that you're looking for. So men, please don't just disappear and say, oh, we shouldn't be risk takers, we should just be timid and stay back. No, it is about balance. Maybe an example would be useful to explain what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so
go ahead, yeah.
Say my children, we talk about our kids, they're important to us, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
So I'm putting aside money, saving for their education. The first example is I'm saving for school fees in the next 2 months, okay?
January.
That's January 2023 coming up, yes? Great investment, perfect investment for that is my savings account. Why? Because the savings account offers me security and it also offers me access. So the money is safe, well, as safe as it can be.
Yes.
I have to say this because many times people think risk. There is risk in every investment. There is no risk on earth. There's no investment on earth that is zero risk.
Correct.
But there are some that have lower risk profiles than others, like a savings account, which is what makes it really powerful for short-term saving. So 2 months from now, perfect investment, my savings account. Why? Security. When I need it, I just come and withdraw. Okay. Think about our kids because they are all young. My youngest is 5. So I'm talking about university maybe in the next 15 years. My savings account may not be the best investment for that goal. I need to look then therefore for other investments that match my goal, which means I need growth. I need a high rate of return. Now, I didn't mean just go and look for any risky investment that's out there, whichever one tells you I'm going to give you 25%. No, I'm saying I go and do an assessment of what investments are available. And what I'm trying to do is to try and beat inflation when I'm going for a long-term investment. So I need savings, and that's what a savings account is for, and any other instrument that is like a savings account. But I also need to be investing and trying to grow. That's why I'm saying, when I'm speaking to the men here, risk is part of life. And if you're going to grow, you need to take on some risk. So don't beat that out of yourself. The difference here is if we take calculated risk. That's what we want to aim for.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've really highlighted calculated risk. And I see this a lot of the time, you're driving with your friend in the car and they overtake and they say, but I calculated.
Yeah.
But sometimes they also say, I had a gut feeling that we'll make it. Which goes to my next question there, that, is there such a thing as a gut feeling when it comes to investing?
Yes, there is. And what your friend in the car is trying to say is, I have experienced this before. I know the speed my vehicle is able to achieve within the period of time.
Yeah.
I could see the gap between me and the next car. I've been here before. So when you hear somebody saying gut feeling, they're really talking about I have experienced this. I see this a lot, especially when I'm talking to investors, entrepreneurs who've been there for a long period of time.
Yeah.
They tend to say, I had a gut feeling. But when you really interrogate them, you ask them the question,
it's experience.
They've had that experience before. I've met a character who looks like that. I've had that spiel before. I've had that, that proposal before on my desk. And so when they say it's a gut feeling, it's because I've seen that before. So is there such a thing as gut feeling? Yes. But what really is it saying? It is saying, I've had an experience before and I'm drawing on my past experiences to be able to work out on this. If you're just saying, I just felt, you're getting into spiritual areas I don't want to discuss.
Yeah.
When you're talking about that sense of, it's a sense of knowledge that's beyond just the current experience. You're drawing on the past. So I want everyone to make sure that when you're making your investment choices, that it's not just on the gut feeling. The gut feeling guided you to go and ask more questions, to research a little bit more, take more time to think about it. And it's interesting, we're talking men and women. It seems to me that in my life, my personal experience, women have more gut feelings than men. Yeah. And my wife has many times saved me with her gut feeling of, just take some time to think about it.
Yeah.
Don't go for that meeting yet. Sleep on it. Yeah. It works, but it works when you apply other knowledge over and above that. So yeah, it does exist.
Okay. So take a calculated risk.
Correct.
Yes, the gut feeling is good, but interrogate it a little deeper.
Please.
But what else should we be paying attention to as men?
Okay, so we've addressed physiology, testosterone, the way we are built and made.
Yeah.
let's address something else that also makes us, which is society and the societal pressure that's put on us as men. And I know that we're speaking primarily to an African audience. And I know as the African society, there's a lot of pressure and expectation that's put on men. Couple that with our society, especially in Kenya as well, where you have a very, what we would call a religious society, where there's faith-based thought that is, so we're putting faith, society, African traditions all into the same place, and it puts pressure on men to be the provider. Okay? Now, please, I am not trying to say here that men should not provide. No, that's not what we're saying. But what I'm trying to express is that there is a pressure on men to provide. Okay? Whether you subscribe to it or not, that's another discussion altogether. Yeah. But all men can be able to say that there's that sense in which within our family there's expectation for the men to provide. Within our church setting, there's men do this thing. Within our home, there's expectation from our relatives. You're the man, you should. Okay? Now, what that does is that it puts a pressure that men need to think through and make sure that they're not just making decisions based on what other people have said, but rather on what matters to you. That's what we want to address today, as far as the expectations from men. Okay,
good. You talked about pressure there.
Yeah.
But there's pressure that is also almost innate. There's a thing called ego. And basically it's does impact us somehow. Maybe talk to us about that.
So you see, it's related. So if there's pressure, sometimes that pressure even comes from within. As you said, now it's men talking, all of them are related. I want the competition is to be better than the next person. That drive to innovate, to move forward. Then we're talking about now the ego, as you're talking about, and the societal pressure, everyone expects it of you. What does that mean? Now you can be caught in trying to look like you are successful, like you are investing well, like you are doing these things more than actually doing them. And this becomes a trap as far as your ego is concerned, and it's an image trap. So you're trying to look like you're achieving the goals that everybody expects you to go through. So, we go through it all the time, Daniel. Think about it. If you came, we're all parking here in the parking lot down here, and you come with your nice Mercedes and park next right there, and I come with my, maybe it's a smaller vehicle, whatever it is. There's a pressure that comes, and you're just like, man, I want to, I am addressing the issue based on what I see. I don't know what you've done. I don't know your history. In our culture, we don't ask anybody, hey, how much do you earn? It's a very uncomfortable question to ask people. So you don't know. Daniel could be having 10 streams of income and he's able to support that lifestyle with no issue. But here I'm on the outside, I'm saying we were in school together or, we grew up together or our families know one another. And so I'm making a decision based on what I can see from the outside. And I can get into a trap of trying to have an image of wealth versus actual wealth. Now, if I'm in that trap and I don't know what you're doing, whether you inherited the money, what deals you did, and I'm trying to live up to it, so what do I end up doing? Sometimes I get into, and many people are getting into it now, the issue of debt. So I'm borrowing to fund my consumption. And I think we've talked about this often. I'm going to repeat it because it is necessary. Debt in and of itself is not bad. The example I love to use in our classes at Centonomy is that debt is like fire. Fire is neither good nor bad. Modern society cannot function without fire. We can't cook with our cars, burn energy. Fire is important. But fire can also burn down your house if it is out of control.
Correct.
Same thing with debt. If debt is used for consumption, it will burn down your house. What do I mean by for consumption? It's for the things daily use and you're not going to get a return for it. But if I borrow and I use that to grow my finances, to build assets that actually put money in my pocket, now we're talking. Now that's the difference that you're going to be getting into. And so this whole image trap that we're discussing here is coming, and the trap begins to have an effect on your financial decisions because you're spending more to look like somebody else. You're making an investment to make sure. So you find somebody, everything is on debt. Their car is debt, their house is debt, their spending is debt, and it is definitely going to end in problems along the way because you're trying to keep up. So it's the image, not the debt, that is the problem.
Yeah.
If we can have the discipline to be able to say, hey, look, there are some goals I want to achieve, and therefore I'm going to do some work, and my debt is going to assist me in achieving those goals, then we're talking. But if you're trying just to keep up with one another, you cannot, and you can't please the world.
Yeah, peer pressure for adults, huh?
Whoa! Stop right there, because I honestly believe peer pressure is more real in my adult life than it was when I was a teenager, and I see it often. We train teenagers, campus students, adults, and you find we are the ones who struggle the most.
Wow.
Because there's that expectation on our side that, hey, Daniel is doing well. Hey, his family is moving in that direction, and we're more aware of it, and then we make a financial decision behind it. So men, that drive to compete, the drive to innovate, to grow is a positive thing if it is under control.
Yeah.
If it's based on the sound financial decisions which we were talking about before, which we were saying, always make sure that you're matching your investment to the goal that is coming out. You're not trying to keep up with other people around you.
Okay, we've talked about keeping up with the Joneses and peer pressure for adults.
Hey.
What else in terms of societal pressure should we watch out for?
So, can I confess in front of everybody?
Yeah.
I'm using a script.
Okay.
Okay. Why am I using a script? Because I don't know everything. It took time to research, to prepare, to plan for this, because I don't know everything. I wish I did. And sometimes I feel, and I think many men will, with that sense that there's an expectation that you should know it all. I think there's an expectation from others, but I think we also put that on ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, you're the guy at the garage, the mechanic, and the mechanic is telling you about a part in the car that you have never heard of,
You're
but
nodding.
you're nodding, yes, that's the
Yeah.
thing that broke. We need to fix it, yes. You're in a board meeting, guys are discussing, a joke is cracked. You don't want to be
Left
seen
out, or
as
don't
if you
know.
don't know. And that can be dangerous. Why? Because you cannot have all the knowledge that is necessary to make the best decisions that are there in the world. So I think it takes some humility. And humility does not mean a lack of knowledge or a lack of power, but a recognition that you don't have all the power and all the knowledge in the world. I have found that it always shocks me when people come into the classes at Centonomy and you know somebody is more wealthy than you, they have a bigger business than you, but they're sitting in a class to learn. And it strikes me, I just wonder, what's happening here? What's going? You should be the one teaching me, but somebody is sitting there and they're saying, no, there's something that you know that I don't.
Yeah.
And if I can get you to tell me what that is, then I'm in a better position to make my decisions. So you find people who have found great success tend to be those people who have others around them who have knowledge that they don't. And if they are able to draw that knowledge, it makes them more powerful. It's not the willingness to look like a fool for a few minutes is good, because guess what? You will be educated and suddenly now you're not a fool in that area. But for many of us as men, we struggle, right? And we want to keep that image of, I know, I'm with it, I'm all the way, and it can be a pitfall. Okay? So watch out. You don't combat ignorance with force or, with the strength that you have. You combat ignorance with knowledge. So go out and seek it. It means that you go out and actually ask a question. Pick up a book and read. Attend a class. I'll tell everyone who's here, especially as Africans, we're coming to your wonderful NCBA environment, and you're sitting across from somebody who looks like Daniel, and he's telling you this is the best investment for you. Here, sign on the dotted line. And I didn't quite understand what you said, but I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to look foolish, and I don't want to, I look like I don't know what I'm talking about. No, wrong perspective. Those who are behind the table, like the bankers themselves, their job and their role is to educate me and get me the best solution for what I want to get. And I get the best result if I sit across from you and I say, what does this mean? What's the potential risk? What's the best outcome? What's the best strategy for me to use? And you tell me based on your knowledge what that is. That makes me a more powerful human being. But if as men we just they're like sitting there and saying, yes, I agree, and sign, and you don't even know what you're signing
no
for.
idea.
You're going to find yourself in trouble. So guys, it's okay not to know. You can't know everything. But that doesn't give you an excuse also to remain in ignorance. Go and find the answers.
Yeah.
And that'll make you more powerful
Okay.
as we have that discussion.
Incredible. I mean, I hope to the gentlemen listening online, when you're lost, it's okay to ask for directions. And I'm not just talking about driving, I'm talking about everything in life, including and most importantly for today's conversation around investments. It's okay to ask and to know, and it's okay to not know. And that will give you then the impetus to actually get some more information.
Yeah.
So we're about to take a short break, and when we come back from the break, we'll be looking, and talking about how to make better financial decisions and ensure that our money is actually working for us. So for those of you tuned in, please send in your questions for Mr. Waithaka. We'll be sampling them after the break. Please don't go too far. We'll be back shortly.
With our NCBA car loan, you can also get insurance for your car for up to 1 year, and all this within a 24-hour time frame.
Hey, Daddy, we will do 12 visits to Grandma, 8 road trips with Mommy, 52 trips to see my cousins.
We know that it's not about the car, but the journeys. Get your NCBA asset finance loan approved in just 24 hours, as well as your car insurance. The name is NCBA, and the numbers that matter to you matter to us. NCBA Bank. Go for it.
Welcome back to Money Mastery, powered by the bank that says, go for it. I've been speaking with Waithaka Gatumia, CEO at Centonomy. We've been having great conversation so far. And Waithaka, in this second half of the show, talk to us through what men can do to actually attain this financial freedom. What are the steps that we can take?
Sure.
Yeah.
So let me address it from the perspective of the discussion we've had today.
Okay.
And I also want to encourage everyone who's watching and listening to this to also check out the other videos that we've done in the past on Money Mastery, because it gives you a really broad perspective. You can't learn enough. You can always learn something more.
Yes.
Okay. So based on what we're discussing today, let's talk about firstly that what we discussed at the beginning, the drive to explore, to innovate, to try something new, to take that risk is a powerful tool. And so don't shy away from it. Lean into it, but with due diligence. Now, sometimes you use some of these terminologies, due diligence. What does that mean? Check it out.
Yeah. Research.
Yeah. Find out more before you make the decision. Yes, that drive is really powerful. Go and actually try the new thing, but do so once you've understood it. Take some time. In fact, it's a rule of investment that we try and teach at Centonomy, which is never invest in something you don't understand. But that again doesn't give you the right to remain in ignorance. Go and find out.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Like, you see, these are things that have come into being probably in this generation that we have. Think about an example of investment in cryptocurrency. I know everyone keeps asking questions. How is it managed? Rather than asking, than sitting back and just getting involved, why don't you go and sit in these conferences where they're discussing it? Ask questions. People always come and ask me, which is the best investment, Waithaka? What do you think? And they'll say, is a money market fund a good thing? Is a savings account a good thing? And my next question is, have you gone and asked? Your bank offers this solution. Have you sat down with an advisor from the bank and said, tell me more about a money market fund or an equity fund. How can it help me?
Yeah.
That's the attitude that you want to take. Go and actually invest, but do so with the knowledge that's going to help you there. Get into that business, but do so understanding how that business works. That's when you say due diligence, that's what it means. You're trying to find out as much as you possibly can about the risks, about the potential outcomes that you want to achieve, and then you make the investment. But I am not saying don't make. You make the investment with knowledge on what you're going to do. The other thing that we have to think about is also, we don't know everything. And if you can accept that, as we talked before the break, then you're going to find real power. Go out and discover. If it's an area that you don't know anything about, pick up a book, attend a class, go and sit with an advisor and ask them the questions. So show some humility.
Yes.
I was even going to say it in the hardest accent I can find. Show some humility, and you'll find strength in that. It's not weakness. Hopefully that's helpful to the men, but also to the women who are listening, because I know there are many who are doing
That's very useful. I mean, I'm just reflecting now on, even when we're making a decision to purchase a car, what do? I know you have a similar car. I ask you, so how is this car?
Yes.
What are the issues?
Yes.
We talk to the mechanic and so on, but we seldom seem to do that when it comes to investing, which is an issue. And yet it's something we actually can do and should do.
In the groups that you're in, with your boys, when you're out, men, don't just talk about the cars. Also ask that question. Where have you invested? Have you invested in this area? I'm interested in getting into it. Whoever has that knowledge, share your experience. And I think that's probably one area that women tend to be stronger than men. They tend to share a lot more and share meaningful things. I think we can do better.
Very good. So put another question here.
Sure.
And the question really is, so what if, and because of pressure, because of image, because of all these things, I am heavily in debt. And I'm listening in and I'm saying, what then is my path out of this? Where do I start? What do I do? So
I'm going to sound like a motivational speaker, but I think many times you need to be motivated to do things. We often don't. I'm telling you, the drive to get up, go to work, and it's hard. Life can be hard sometimes. And so you need motivation to get up. So can I speak to that guy who's feeling that way? Imagine you can get out of it. You can. It is possible. You have the knowledge, you have the opportunities that are around you to get out of that situation that you're in. So let's now figure it out. So first of all, stop taking debt. There's this idea of borrowing from this to pay. Doesn't work. You're just in a cycle. So stop. Then do a proper assessment. And we've done this in past episodes of the Money Mastery. Do a proper assessment of your current finances. What do you spend on? And a really powerful tool that we train at Centonomy is this thing called expense tracking. So for 1 month minimum, just write down where your money goes. I know it sounds boring, I know it sounds tedious, but what it will do is it will reveal the truth about where your cash goes. And you will be shocked where your money goes. Most of us have no awareness of it. I always share this, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's so that whoever has never heard it before will hear it again. I told people the first time we did this like 10 years ago with my wife, we found we were spending more on takeout food than our rent.
Wow.
But it's because we weren't calculating. You were just spending. It sounds like it's reasonable. It sounds like it's 250 here, 250 there. When we added it up, it was significant amounts. And then we're like, when you know that, it doesn't mean that we don't go out anymore. It just means that we make better decisions. Okay? Once you've done that, then you'll be able to, even from my current expenditure, there's some money I can be able to use to help repay the debt. Put that as much as possible towards your debt repayment out of that. But don't be comfortable there. It's not just from what you're currently earning that you're going to be doing the debt repayment. Go out and figure out, how do I increase my income as well? So man, it means get a better job. Get a promotion where you are. Expand the business. So we can't just sit back and hope that with what you have, you're going to achieve that goal. Remember, it is about the consistency that you're going to have. Can I give one other piece of advice on that? When people are in debt and they're in trouble, they tend to run from the problem. We tend to say, hey, now I'm stopping. I will not pick any more phone calls because guys know I owe money and everything. No, address it. And even with institutions like yourselves, like the bank, if you're in a situation that you can't repay for whatever, maybe you lost your job, maybe whatever has happened to your life, come and sit and say, this is my situation. I signed and I committed I'm going to repay. How can we work together? And I know from dealing with you guys, there are methods that you can be able to deal with such situations and get back on track. So don't run from the responsibility. Deal with it as you go into it, and you'll find some help around that. We can sweep things under the cover, but under the rug. But
it piles up.
It
piles
does.
up. Basically, don't be the guy, you hear the noise in the car, instead of stopping to go to the garage, you increase the volume on the music.
Yes.
So you just don't deal with that. So I think we can shift gears a little bit with that and sample some of the questions that are coming in from our viewers. And there's a question here from Eric. Eric is asking, do chamas work for men? For those who don't know what a chama is, it's basically an investment group. Typically, it's women that have one. But do chamas work for men? Or is this a preserve for women only?
Yes, they do. I think we often don't use the same terminology. Maybe we don't call it a chama. We call it something else, investment group, business partnership, all those things. It does.
Yeah.
When you pool resources, so the benefit of a chama or investment group is that you pool resources. Because what that means, you have more cash available to make an investment or plan. That allows you to do more. But then also you have the benefit of all the experience and knowledge of the people within that group. And that's powerful.
Yeah.
So do they work? Yes. You should be in one.
Okay, you've heard that, gentlemen. Make sure you have a boys group running at least, where it's not just cars and football. We're actually talking money and investments.
Hey.
There's a question there from Brevins. The question is, how can men balance between investing and sending money to help needy relatives? And we will always have needy relatives. It's a black tax, as we call it.
Yeah,
but how do we make the balance?
Term.
Yeah.
It's a fancy term.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, because this addresses everybody. You cannot solve the problems of the world. I think even Bill Gates is in Kenya today. He has more money than he needs. His family, he has billions of dollars. He can't solve every problem in the world. He's trying to, but he can't. He recognizes that. So can I speak to us who are not Bill Gates? You can't solve everyone's problems. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with balancing investment and supporting your family? It's called a budget. Now, when somebody hears the word a budget, many people now, you start breaking out in hives and people are logging off. Don't log off. A budget is not for restriction. People hear budget, they hear handcuffs, they hear it's the end of my joy and life. No.
Yeah.
A budget actually shows what matters to you. If it's important to you, it should be in your budget. That car, that upgrade of your phone, the plan, the thing, your holiday, we're coming up to the holidays now, budget, plan for it. If you plan for it, then you can be able to live life with balance, including your relatives. Plan and budget and say, our budget for supporting relatives for the month is 5,000, it's 10,000, put a number. And then what does that does, it make sure that you're being diligent to make sure the first wedding, because there'll be a wedding, funeral, there'll be all these different things in a month.
Yes.
The first wedding, you'll not give 10,000. If your budget was 10,000, you'll give 2. Why? Because you know there's something else coming after that. And you're trying to prepare in advance. And once you get to your budget limit of 10,000, you've done your part. You can't solve everybody's problems. So stop trying to do that. Once you've reached the limit, next month you start again. And we all have limits. How do I know this? I'm sure you've been through really tough times where relatives have been in tough situations, even life and death situations, but you didn't sell your house. You didn't sell your car. Why? Because life continues beyond that point.
Correct.
And so you give to a certain level. All we're saying in a budget is set the level.
Set the level.
Yeah.
Don't be driven by guilt, be driven by a plan. Yeah. All right, there's a question here from Paul. Paul is asking, and again, this goes back to our risk-taking questions. How do I know that the risk I'm taking is reasonable?
Okay. The research. We've been talking about it, and I just, so we can get through that quickly, find out more. First of all, remember, we talked about it. The best investment is the one that matches your goal. So if you don't have a goal for the investment, don't invest. Say, I am investing here because I want my children to go to university. I'm investing here because I want one day to own my own house. These are all good goals. So set the goal. Then you look for the investment that matches that goal. That, first of all, will tell you whether it's reasonable or not. Then you do the due diligence around it to find out what's the history of the investment, what's the potential risk, what other elements are we going to find ourselves in. Then you invest. That's how you know whether it's reasonable or not. And many times just people asking what's the best investment, they just want to put money. I want to invest. For what? If you answer the for what, now you're in a good position.
The purpose drives the...
Hey. Yes.
Okay, very good. There's a question here. Next question is from Brian. Brian is asking, and I think this leads back to the question or the statement we made earlier about how different men and women are in terms of investing. And the question from Brian is, how can men go about investing with their spouses and still take up risks? So you're investing with somebody who's probably not a big risk taker like you are, but so how do you go about it?
Daniel, you need a psychologist for such questions. Please get one for the next meeting that you're going to have, because let me address it in this way. In general, you hear sayings such as 2 heads are better than one. That's the strength of investing with your spouse, because they'll see things from a different perspective than you. And if you can have that different perspective, it makes your decision making much better. Now, if any one of you becomes completely dominant and you're not listening to the other person, then it defeats the purpose, because that balance of hearing a different perspective should guide the discussion.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean don't invest. It just means listen. So there's power not just only in two minds, but there's also in 2 incomes. So most households now are having double incomes. So imagine if you're now investing together for the outcome that you want. It's the same power as it's your first chama, or your investment group is your home. There's real power in that.
Yeah.
And I have to give a shout out to my wife, who has saved me many times with her advice and just said, no, wait a minute, think through that, sleep over it for a moment. That's really helpful to have a listening ear and a teammate.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a great response there. Thank you.
Thanks.
Final question from Stephanie. The question is, how do men, and now we're doing a fast forward, how do men and women compare at retirement?
That is a huge question. I don't think we have time to get into everything, but based on the trends that we've been discussing, in general, when it comes to the saving and investing strategy for retirement, you find that women have a better outcome because, as we said before, they are planning with more long-term decision making. Okay, so the outcome tends to be better on that financial decision. But also because of our strength as men tend to work a bit longer after retirement, get into new areas of investment, same strengths. But if it is not managed well, you can find there are still risks that are in that space. And so I don't want to get too much into it. I just want to encourage people, prepare for retirement. Imagine it's coming. So make some decisions that are going to help you in that period of time. When we're training on retirement at Centonomy, we always mention this. The greatest concern that you have in retirement is cash flow. So many times, especially as Africans, we think our house is security. Owning your home is a good thing, but it is not financial freedom. If you talk to anybody who owns their own home, you don't live there for free. So what you need is cash that's coming in on a regular basis, the way your salary used to come, that allows you to live on a regular, from day to day. That is the financial freedom that you're looking for. So hopefully that's helpful.
Oh, wow. I think it's a great note to end this conversation. That's all the time we have for this session of this edition of Money Mastery. Thank you so much for being here with us, where we teach you how to make your money work for you. To learn more about our products and services, please visit our website. That's ke.ncbagroup.com, or better yet, call the numbers that are on your screen right now. You can also like, follow, and subscribe to our social media handles, also on the screen right now. Until next time, my name is Daniel Macau. Do have a good afternoon. Goodbye and take care.